Good afternoon. Good afternoon, White Plains. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. It is Friday, April 16th. Thank you so much for tuning in either right now live or maybe you're watching later on this evening or over the weekend or another time. But thanks for checking in and keeping up with us. As you remember, as always, we like to provide updates to our community related to COVID-19, related to our reopening efforts and other questions and answers that might be out there. Always hoping to be able to answer as many questions as possible. I want to thank you all for joining, and also I need to start out with, which I think is appropriate, thanking everybody for all of your help and all of your support and all of your positivity and optimism as we have worked through the pandemic here in the White Plains City School District. And then finally, this week on Monday, we've phased in the last of our grade levels. So now here in our school district, we are back. And it really is wonderful to welcome all of our children back. Even those who still remain at home on remote, share in the joy, and it really, I have to tell you, is just phenomenal. Not without challenges, and we'll still talk about that. We'll talk about that this morning, or this afternoon rather, as well. Still ongoing challenges that we're going to have to face, but overall, to be able to welcome all of our children back into our facilities every day for instruction, face-to-face instruction, is really great. It's a tremendous step in the right direction, and thank you to everybody who helped to make that possible. And there are so many people. Certainly I need to thank the Board of Education for all of your ongoing support and leadership during this process. It is truly a community effort here, and this week is a great week. We had the opportunity to visit our kids in the buildings, check in with the classrooms, check in with our friends at home as well, and I'm just really happy to report that the feeling is excitement, it's joy, and I hope somewhat a feeling of accomplishment as well. A couple of quick updates before I jump right into your questions. This morning, reminder, this is a reminder you're going to hear coming from me all the time. Please make sure that before you send your child to school, nobody in the household is ill, and you're certain that your child isn't under the weather either. If you are seeing any type of symptoms that could potentially be COVID related, even if you're a typical seasonal allergy sufferer, you really need to make sure that it is in fact seasonal allergies and not COVID-19 before we send children or adults into the facilities. The challenge that we have right now is that we have students coming to us who are ill. And that, of course, as many of you, or some of you, unfortunately have experienced, then triggers the contact tracing process, it triggers the quarantine process, isolation, and you know, that is really disruptive. It's disruptive for home, it's disruptive for school, so please do everything you possibly can to make sure that before coming to school, everybody is well. If you're unsure, just call the school nurse, check in, or call your healthcare provider. Remote education is available, and you know, even if a child needs to stay home, connecting with the teacher, we can make a transition so that the child can still participate in class. So keeping everybody healthy now is the goal, right? Keeping the facilities open, keeping the classrooms open for in-person instruction, that's the goal. So we have to work together to make sure that we can make that happen. Really important point. Somebody in the household is waiting on a COVID-19 test, meaning you're waiting for the results of a PCR test, please do not send your child to school while there's an outstanding test. We've had some instances where there was a test at home and we were waiting on results, and unfortunately the test came back positive and the child was already in school and thereby exposed other children. So just bear in mind that the actions that we take outside of school before we even get into the building can have an adverse impact on the building. In the same respect, if we're taking the appropriate steps, we're going to be able to continue to function appropriately. So please bear that in mind as we go through the remainder of the academic year, and again, even into next year, I'm sure we'll be talking about those types of things as well. So here we are in the spring. The weather's going to be getting nicer. We're going to be able to get outside more often. Children have already been taking advantage of the outdoors in the facilities. In the coming weeks, we will have tents on all of our school grounds, just as another option to be able to get outside. Windows are open. Air HVAC systems are moving to provide for ventilation inside of our classrooms, and we continue to have the layered mitigation strategies, the layered protective strategies in all of our facilities to try and provide the best experience for our children and the safest experience for our children and our educational community members. Guidance did come out, and guidance has been coming out, and guidance changed, and it's been changing. It will change again. One of the major changes that we heard about just in recent weeks is that CDC no longer identifies barriers as a necessary layer of mitigation, right? As a necessary layer of mitigation. Well, in the White Plains City School District, we have barriers, and they're already up, they're installed. We did not run through the school system and take the barriers down. We are going to take our time with that. We believe that the more layers of protective mitigation in place, the more supports there are to keep our students and our educational community members healthy. Will barriers eventually come down? Of course, absolutely. They will come down in a strategic fashion when it makes sense to take them down. And certainly that's going to depend a lot also on the comfort of our children and our faculty and staff members. In layered mitigation, the more protective measures that are in place, the better it is for our folks, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can. So I know many I've had conversations with some parents, and looking forward to having the barriers come down, and they will, but for the time being, we're leaving them up. The reopening committee will continue to discuss their usefulness as we go forward into the remainder of the academic year. Windows being open, HVAC upgrades, and additional air filtration, all of those things coming. Making sure that we're physically distancing to the extent possible, that we're wearing our masks, that we're washing our hands. Again, staying home when we're not feeling well. All of these things. Filling out the daily screening form, right? Contact tracing, making sure we know that our children are sitting in pods where they were sitting, and we can then go back and find where they were if there's a potential exposure. All of these things are still happening, and they'll keep happening. The most important thing that we can do, I think, is to remain vigilant, even in this period of time where now we're coming into a more normalized type of a school day. We still need to watch and make sure that the numbers in our community and in our region are manageable, and we're doing that by working in concert with the Westchester County Department of Health, as we have been. And we want to make sure that we're communicating effectively with you at home so that if we're seeing anything that's raising concerns, we can let you know and you can help. Okay, I think that's enough for my update. I'm going to jump right into the questions right now. Okay, first question. As of April 12th, the district reported 354 positive cases among students, teachers, and staff. These numbers were reported while facilities were operating with limited population density. Second week of our phase-in resulted in 7 cases within our buildings between April 5th and 9th. What metrics are we using to prove or disprove that our mitigations are working? Do we have a mechanism or threshold that is grounded in science to dial back in-person instruction if there's a spike in transmission? Thank you for your question. So we're not really in the research business right now of proving or disproving mitigation strategies, what works best, what doesn't work. Taking everything sort of in totality, in all of the efforts that we're doing in our facilities in totality, I think it's pretty safe to say that our strategies in the facilities have been successful. We've not seen spikes in COVID-19 in our facilities, and we're fortunate for that. We're grateful for that, and we believe that those mitigation strategies are working. Now, of course, more children in the building, right? Increased density. Could there be increased numbers or increased cases of COVID-19? It could happen. That's why we have to be vigilant. That's why we're doing random testing. That's why we're asking for your help in making sure that the household is healthy, and we're not coming to the facilities when somebody isn't healthy. Is there a threshold at which time schools need to revert? Schools in the whole need to revert into hybrid instruction? There could be, and that notification would come from health, would come from the Department of Health. We, again, notify and work with the Department of Health with every single instance of COVID-19 that's identified and connected to the school district. Whether or not the child came into the school or whether or not the case is at home and there was never any contact, we still have contact with the Department of Health. So if we needed to make an adjustment from in-person learning to hybrid instruction or even to remote instruction, that would be done in concert with the Department of Health. I don't have a particular, number to share with you, but I do know that the department is monitoring cases, monitoring total cases within the community and active cases, as well as any watching for any potential spikes. Next question, could you provide an overview of our current or future plan to provide robust testing for COVID-19 within our schools? So we conduct testing on a screening basis, and it's a voluntary basis, so students and faculty and staff members have opted into the random screening testing, and we're going to continue to do that for as long as we need to. Robust, in my mind, conjures an idea of mass testing. That's not something that we're doing right now. Certainly if we needed to do that, we would ramp up and be able to do it. But right now we're doing screening, and we're using the Binex Now rapid tests, and again, it's an opt-in scenario. Thank you for your questions. Next question. Now that guidance has changed, will we be getting rid of the plastic dividers in the classrooms? I just kind of touched on it a little bit. Eventually the dividers will go away, but right now at this time the barriers are still in place. We are still using them. Remember, the CDC didn't say that they're not effective. The CDC said that right now they're not the preferred method of mitigation over HVAC, and I agree. Having fresh air coming into the classrooms is really important. Cycling in that internal air with fresh air is really important, way more important than barriers. So I kind of think it's like apples and oranges. But I do believe that one of the pressure points was that these barriers are expensive, and school districts need to purchase them and need to install them and need to clean them. And I know that was holding up a lot of school districts' ability to move forward with re-entry and bringing children back full-time. So barriers are in right now, and they will eventually come down, and we'll do that in concert with the reopening committee, and we'll also make sure that all of our educational community members are comfortable as we're thinking about taking them down. Thanks for your question. Next question, when will restrictions on our especially youngest students be lifted? With vaccinations available to all and 1 in 4 New Yorkers who have already been vaccinated, when will it be enough for these kids to be kids? I'm sorry that question, while I appreciate your question and certainly respect the sentiment there, that is not a policy decision that's made at the local school district. We're going to do everything we can to allow kids to be kids, but we're also going to follow the guidelines that we have to follow, which means having the PPE in place and making sure we're adhering to all of the expectations from the Department of Health. I don't know when all of that changes. Certainly when I find out, as soon as I know, I will absolutely share that information with you. The CDC has already said that students don't need barriers, and yet our students are restricted with them. When will it be enough to let our children go about their lives in a normal manner? Is this being spoken about for September? Thanks again for the questions. We are thinking about and planning for September. We are working to advocate at the Department of Health, State Department of Health level, to get the updates or guidelines for September 2021 as soon as possible. We don't want to wait until August to find out what the state expects in terms of school for September. I am thinking optimistically that our school year in September will begin as a typical school year would. With all of us back in the buildings, sure, we may still be wearing facial coverings, maybe even the temperature checks and the daily screeners and the like. But certainly I would assume with the advancement of vaccination in the community, the national community and global community as a whole, typically you would think that the numbers and concerns would come down with spreading. But we'll have to see what September brings. I am planning for in-person for all students in September, and I am planning, and I don't know this to be true, but I am planning that the state will remove the remote learning piece of the COVID-19 response. So what does that mean? It means that unless there was the absolute need to revert to remote learning wouldn't be in place automatically. That's my anticipation. We'll have to see what the state says on that as we get closer to the summer months. Okay, why is it Why is it we have our kids return to school where the entire school is in session as of Monday, April 13th? The halls are crowded. The kids cannot hear each other at lunch. There's no way to monitor all the kids to make sure that they have masks on over their mouth and nose. My kids see other kids in the hallways with their mouth covered but not their nose. It is crowded and hazardous indoors. My kid can't report it. They're rushing to get to class. Halls are crowded. All right, so I think the question is probably, how can we, when we have all of our children back, make sure that children are taking the appropriate steps to wear their masks, distance themselves as possible in the buildings when we have more kids in the hallways. So we've staggered bell schedules to allow for reduced numbers of children to be traveling in the hallways at any given time. We've also given time for increased passing time and for allowed children to be able to stagger and get to class in between classes. We are in the hallways and we are reminding children to make sure that they're wearing their facial cover, I should say children and adults, to wear their facial coverings appropriately. I have to tell you, I've spent a lot of time in the buildings this week and walking through the buildings and seeing the children and standing in the middle of the hallways during passing. The kids are really doing a great job. Now, that's not to say that sometimes a kid, a mask comes down below the nose and has to, you have to remind. But it was very few and far between. If I did not see the kids doing a really great job, I'd tell you that, because I'd be asking you to remind them. The children are doing a fantastic job, and I give them a great deal of credit for that, because if they don't do a fantastic job, we're not able to do all the things that we need to do and want to do. So I do appreciate the question. I think it's important that everyone continues to follow the appropriate steps to keep everyone safe. The hallways, everybody moves in an orderly fashion and goes to their classes. I do understand sort of the level of anxiety that may erupt as you see a hallway that has way more children in it than have been since March 2020. Having been in the hallways and walked with the children, I can tell you that it's not at all a scary scenario. Actually, it moves very smoothly, and the kids are doing a really great job. Thanks for your question. Okay, next question. Any further consideration given to returning to virtual Wednesdays? My child communicated that instruction time was limited after everyone's getting settled. We're going to continue to monitor and assess with the reopening committee and all of our stakeholder partners our schedule. This is the first full week, right, where everyone's back. So the reopening committee meets every 2 weeks, and we'll continue to take a look at that. The Wednesday is an important day. We have to remember, this is very important. We still have children who are attending school remote because they need to, because of whatever concerns or health safety requirements at home, and we need to respect that with our kids and our families. We also need to make sure that our faculty and staff members have the time that they need to address all of the issues. Remember, when you're teaching a class, typically you teach 3-4 classes. Maybe you have a break, and then you're teaching again. And when you're doing this in the hybrid with both remote and children in front of you, it does kind of compress and restrict the amount of time that you have during the academic day to get things done. Reach out to parents, meet with children for extra help, so on and so forth. So that Wednesday is really helpful for our teachers and supportive of our teachers and staff members. But we're going to continue to assess all of the scheduling. Thank you for your question. Has White Plains High School considered having a vaccination team come to the school to vaccinate all eligible children who wish? Some other schools are doing that. I heard of such plans being developed in Connecticut. Thanks for your question. Vaccination of children is a very personal decision that parents and guardians are responsible to make. The school district, of course, has the ability, and we have the ability through our partnerships, our community partnerships, to be able to help parents and guardians seek out vaccination for their children if they are so inclined. The school district has not and will not take a position that all children must be vaccinated. That's not our role. Vaccination requirements and vaccination mandates come from the state of New York. Right now, our role, the school district's role, is to try and provide all of the mitigations and protections that we can from the exterior, so that children are able to remain healthy and families are able to remain healthy. I do know that many parents and guardians will take advantage of vaccination for their children, and that's great. However, we have not talked about bringing in vaccination teams at the school level yet. That's not to say that it won't happen, and perhaps it'll be a student-driven initiative where students who are interested in getting vaccinated and who do meet the requirements for that organize something. I could see, believe me, I could see White Plains High School students taking the initiative in that. But I'll tell you right now, that's not something that we've discussed at the reopening committee level. Thanks for your question. Graduation. I was reading the State Department of Health's guidance and with regard to graduation and commencement ceremonies and was confused about how many guests. You're not alone. The confusion when you read guidance is usually the normal response to reading guidance. And I'm laughing because it's true, and sometimes the guidance is actually contradictory on, from one page to another, so it is a challenge. Is there an answer for how many people how many guests will be allowed in attendance at this time? So what we're looking at right now, just let me lay this out in case anybody is going to have questions about this. White Plains High School, commencement, and Highlands moving up. We are planning for in-person events that will take place at Laux Field. All of that information will be shared, the time, dates, and the requirements and everything will be shared from the school, but the school teams are planning that right now. We want this to be a really great event for our kiddos. We know how hard this time has been. We know how difficult it was last year. Even though we did a great virtual ceremony and we had activities and such that we could do, it's still, folks were still longing for the graduation itself. So we want to be able to make that happen. We're working on it right now, and the plans are coming together. How many people, how many guests will be able to be allowed? Right now, and again, we're beginning at the very bottom, at the base right now. We are planning for the graduate and 2 guests right now. If guidance changes, if things change, then perhaps there will be a different requirement. But right now, we're figuring the graduate and 2 guests. Now, we're also going to be live streaming the events. So folks who aren't able to attend in person will be able to watch live the ceremony, the moving up ceremony and the commencement ceremony. There will be more to come on that, but so that you know, we are planning to have an audience, attendance in an audience, and you'll get more information depending upon which grade level your child's in. Next question is, what is graduation going to look like? We just talked about that. And what about prom? Okay, so during a pandemic, and you already know this, dancing, right? Slow dancing, fast dancing, all those things are really not possible in the traditional sense. Certainly, indoor activities are far reduced, so for the number of children who would typically attend our prom, it would far exceed the requirements for those indoor facilities. The team at the high school is planning for a prom-like event that will be taking place at the high school. There'll be more information that's coming, but the children are directly involved in that planning as well. So if you have any questions about how that's shaking out, you can feel free to reach out to Principal Martinez or anybody at the high school, and they'll be happy to help you. We are absolutely planning for a special event for our children that would take the place. I shouldn't say take the place. Nothing takes the place of prom, but that would stand in for prom during the pandemic and during these requirements. So more to come on that, but yes, there will be an event. Next question. I'd like to know how plans for graduation and prom. So we went over that. I would appreciate if you would spread the word about where people can get vaccinated, including 16-year-olds and up, to remind the White Plains community that vaccination is free. Yes, vaccination is free. You can still get vaccinated. You need only look on the Westchester County Department of Health's website, or you can look at the New York State Department of Health's vaccination website, and it's very simple to go in and to identify the best spot for you, depending upon where you are or where you're going to be that day, and to be able to get vaccinated if you are willing and able to be vaccinated. If you have questions about whether or not you're willing and able, or not willing, if you have questions about whether you're able to be vaccinated, please reach out to your healthcare provider. All right, next question. We have a child going into 6th grade. We see researched and science-based articles that show later middle and high school start times are more advantageous to children, a lot of benefits. Are you thinking about changing the start times to a later start time for the middle and high school students for next year? Thanks for your question. Absolutely, I've seen that research as well, and we actually have looked at staggering start times for our upper grade children. I can tell you though, truthfully, that we are not thinking about that for next year. That's not really, I don't think it's the time right now for us to change the schedule, particularly as we're still going to be sort of coming out of COVID-19, hopefully out of COVID-19 into the next school year. But yes, we have seen that those research articles, and there's a lot in there, a lot involved in that, and definitely something that we're interested in looking at as we move forward into the future. Thanks for the question. Okay, would you please confirm the dates for the Memorial Day weekend? So you had 2 snow days this year. You have 3 built into the calendar, which means that on Friday, May 28th, that is the 3rd snow day, or the snow day give back day. So there'll be no school on Friday, May 28th. I believe it's, yes, the 28th. You can always refer to the school district calendar, kind of gives you the breakdown and how that works out, but you can write it down right now too. No school on Friday, May 28th. Friday, May 28th. Thank you very much. Those are all the questions that got sent in. I will now go into the chat and see if there are any additional questions that I might be able to answer. Hi, Seth. Any updates on? Okay, great. I think I hit that. If not, feel free to reach out to Principal Martinez. Will we receive notice before any changes are made in terms of barriers coming down? Yes, absolutely. We would be notifying and the community just like this about any changes to the layered mitigation. I want to tell you, I am not in a rush at all to reduce the layers of protection in our facilities. I get it. CDC says they're not, the best layer of mitigation now. But I've been through this, and you've been through this for 13, 14 months, whatever it is. If I had a nickel for every time like we went back and forth on something, so I am not in a rush necessarily to pull out barriers now. They're in the classrooms. They're in the common spaces. They are providing distance. They're allowing kids to be face-to-face instead of sitting in straight rows. So I see advantages to them. There's definitely disadvantages for sure. 100%. I'm not arguing that. But I'm not in a rush to pull them down right at the moment. And we would definitely let you know. Okay. Great question. And how will they use the what is that, 50,000? Is that 5,000 grant that the city just gave? I don't know. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Kristen. $5,000 grant. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any question that you have. Hi, Jamie. Daughter's been to Highlands the last 2 weeks, 1 to 5 days. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, Jill. Can you provide us with an update on the plans for senior activities? I think I went through that a little bit. I'm not sure about National Honor Society. I know the high school will be doing its own information update as well, and they should be able to give you more information. As time goes on and we get closer to the end of the year, I will have that information too for my updates, but definitely if you're thinking about something now, feel free to reach out to the high school. Oh, thanks, Lisa. We're working really hard for dismissal and arrival. I know it's a headache sometimes dropping children off, but I really want to thank the White Plains Department of Public Safety. I want to thank Sean Lewis. I want to thank all of our security folks, our principals, our TAs, everybody who's out there making arrival and dismissal possible. And certainly thank you, parents and guardians, for your patience as we're picking up and dropping off the kiddos. Okay, let me see here. Agree, we would save so much time for instruction Wednesdays. We're remote, transportation back and forth. Oh, I see what you're saying. So full remote on Wednesdays to save time from back and forth to school. Yeah, I'm happy to bring that up at reopening committee. Maybe I'm just, kind of traumatized, but I don't want to move back to remote, unless we absolutely have to for health safety. I want to keep moving in the other direction. Those are all the questions that I have right here, right now. So I really do appreciate you giving me your time If you have any questions that I didn't get to or didn't cover, or you didn't think I answered appropriately, feel free to give me a call in the office at any time, 422-2019. You can also email us. We are available to you to help with any issue that's coming up. I hope that you all have a really great weekend. Hopefully the weather holds out. Get outside, enjoy yourselves. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe and stay WP proud. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Thank you.